All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of the Wall Street Rundown. I'm joined by my co-host Wale. What's going on, Wale?
Not too
I'm
much. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Today the market kind of ran up a little high. I mean, we've seen some crazy movement today. IBM, that's something we've been talking about. IBM hit an all-time high today. Reported yesterday, dropped a little bit, but if you guys see those two candles from yesterday and today, man, that thing ran back up. I've seen some people hit like 17, 18,000% on that bet. Like, that's crazy. But I mean, the quantum names, man, we've been talking about that for a while, bro. Like, to be able to, see IBM actually moving. And I know it's one of those names that we talked about that like kind of dropped the ball when it came to AI with Watson back in the day. But man, I think they're definitely gonna pivot back to the quantum world. And I know you mentioned that before, and also the Google also playing that one. So that's gonna be an interesting one, man.
Yeah, to me, the only two profitable companies in the quantum space that I'm aware of, and if anybody knows of any other ones, correct me, are Google and IBM. And Google and IBM actually have a, what's the word? They actually have a product or a machine that is actually working, that
Mm-hmm.
they're testing and using. And we found out today that IBM has been using AMD chips, which is why AMD also ran up
Ran up,
today
yep.
like crazy. But the the RGTIs, the QBTS, the QUBTs, I think
TS,
all of
yep.
those other ones are not profitable. I don't know where they fit in the entire ecosystem of quantum, but it will be very interesting to see if those two bigger players either buys them out or maybe formulate some sort of partnership with them. I think IonQ is another one that's in that quantum realm
Mm-hmm.
space,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not profitable. But IBM, man, what a huge move. And I was telling you earlier, I was like, I was really surprised that they dropped after that earnings report because the
Yep.
earnings report was really,
It's
really
good.
good.
Yep.
But that move they made from yesterday to today is crazy. So, congrats to IBM. Hopefully, this is something that they can be a leader in because again, they were the first to get to the AI's arms race and they dropped that ball. So we'll see
Drop
if
that
they
ball,
if they
man.
can figure out the quantum race. But
Yep.
also too, I think another company that's competing in the quantum space that they don't talk about it much is Microsoft.
Yep. Microsoft is a
Microsoft
big is a
is
big is a big one.
yeah,
Yep.
Microsoft
Yep.
is another one. So
Yep. Yep.
we'll see where this goes. But congrats
Yeah.
to IBM.
Yeah. IBM did a good job today, man. If you traded that, congrats to you. A lot of people made some good money out of that. But overall, man, let's talk about CPI. CPI it came in line cooler than expected. I mean, and then I think that's probably another part of why the market kind of ran up a little bit. But again, like what does this mean for the stock market? What does that mean for the interest rate that's coming up? The Fed meetings that's coming up. Like, what does this all mean for even the small caps? Like, what does that mean for them? So, if you want to kind of give us a rundown about exactly what happened with CPI.
Yeah, so CPI again, the story about tariffs, you know, increasing inflation to a degree that will scare people has not come to
Yeah.
play out yet. It has
Nope.
not. And
Nope.
it seems that a lot of companies are doing a fairly good job of navigating these, I guess this tariff environment. I am assuming that, again, we heard in January, or at least in first quarter, there was a lot of front loading of orders,
Yep.
which is why we had that negative GDP print in the first quarter. So that might have also helped a lot of companies. So we'll have to see if that inventory runs out and they have to reorder based on new prices, we'll see if that shakes anybody's feathers. Now, people are still saying that we're going to start seeing higher inflation down the road. But so far, we are in month 10 of 2025, and we just haven't seen anything that has spooked the market. So that made QQQ jump to a new all-time high. I think SPY jumped to a new all-time
Spy.
high today.
Yep.
IWM did not jump to a new all-time high yet, and I think the RSP pretty much got rejected at the near the all-time high from 192 that it hit a couple of when was that on October 3rd. So to me, what that means, at least for now, is the Fed does have room to cut next week. Whether we get 25 or 50, I don't know. I'm hearing there's a small chance for 50 because of what the regional banks need, but most likely we're going to see 25 next week. So everybody's going to, expect that at the next Fed meeting. Also, too, if you look at a lot of the companies that have been reporting earnings, with the exception of a few bad apples, most of the companies have done fairly well. I think the only sector that I'm familiar with that hasn't done too well was the regional banks and some of these, private equity companies because of some of the bad loans that they have on their books. But besides that, we haven't really seen any really huge red flags in the earnings story so far. Um, Intel reported yesterday. Numbers look good.
Yep.
Stock did not respond as positively as I expected, which
It
kind
did
of
not.
still pisses me off. But for the most part, we haven't seen the earnings of what is driving stock prices higher is justifiable, at least up until this point. Now we're going to start
Yep.
getting the heavy hitters next
Yep.
week. So we'll have to see if the trend does continue. But so far, earnings have been good.
Yeah, I mean, like the numbers hasn't been scary, man. I think
No.
the weird thing is we keep hitting all time high, and the numbers looks good. So it's like uh, in the back of my mind, I'm always like, when are we gonna see people take profits like in big time? I
Mm,
mean, I think we see it every now and then, like, and people take profit here and there, but it's like it hasn't been like to the degree where it's like, oh my god, we are in a correction territory, anything like that. Like we have not seen that. So I mean, numbers been good. Companies like Intel, they've been doing a lot of work this year, partnering up with the US government, doing some partnership with other companies and all this stuff. So we'll see what that if that's gonna pay off in the next year, maybe two. And that's gonna really peel back, the curtain from behind to see exactly if all these tactics work for them. But yeah,
yeah.
but overall, man, Intel did a good move today. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, we
It
lost we
was
lost 8%, but
Yeah, it was up like 8% in the pre-market, and then that move kind of died out, which again makes me extremely angry. But even though stocks are not cheap, right? Stocks aren't cheap now. The good thing is that the earnings that some of these companies are delivering gives you at least some justifiable reason of
Mhm.
why things are the way they are.
Yep,
Another
yep.
one that hit an all-time high, and this is, has been my favorite performer over the last couple of months. VRT reported earnings
BRT.
and they hit an all-time high now of 188.89. It did pull back a little bit today, but this was a $53 stock in April.
Again, yeah. Again, back in April, that was like a $53. Hit
It
$53
was a
and 60
$53
cents.
stock in April. So
Jeez.
yeah. And if you go look at, again, we did the review on Wednesday, man, they're growing at a pretty good clip. So I'm hoping that they can sustain it. And yeah, again, um, I am I am not in the camp of we're in a bubble because again, we have legitimate earnings from good companies.
Yep, yep, yep.
So I'm not buying that BS that a lot of people are saying. Another thing I want to point out too, the same people that are saying we were in a bubble were the same people that were saying, oh, a recession was
A
coming in
recession was coming.
2022. Keep
Remember,
that keep that in mind. Yeah.
when you start hearing those headlines, just know
Yeah.
it's a scary tactic. They use the same tactics over and over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, the sky is falling off. You
Hmm.
know, then if you're not a savvy investor, or even if you have somebody who's like investing for you, start putting pressure on them, like sell, 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 because I'm scared
Hmm.
I'm losing all my money. Even if your advisor is telling you like, chill out, relax, it's gonna be
Yeah.
okay. Matter of fact, let's add more money.
Correct.
you
One
know?
thing, one thing I'll also say too is that, rebalancing your portfolio or profit taking is not the same as pulling out of the market. Like,
Yes.
investment managers and portfolio managers, they rebalance all the time,
Yep.
right? So if you're in a position that's up big, there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, I'm going to rebalance this portfolio and take profits and either hold it in cash or maybe reinvest it into other places in the market that have not been doing well. So when I check back in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you know, that's what I'm going to be looking at because, my mutual fund portfolio, the one area where I'm probably going to be, taking profit from like the large cap growth I'll probably be reinvesting that into like small caps,
Yep.
to
Yep.
rebalance
Yep.
the portfolio back to where it should be, or maybe just sitting a little bit of cash. So, I would say that you don't need to pull completely out of the market, but you know, don't just let 2,000% or 100% or 300% gain go to waste. Like
Yep.
there's nothing
Yep.
wrong with taking money off the table at that point.
Yep. Yep. And then, when you do that, you find another entry, right? Whether it's the same company or
Correct.
you find another company that you can, put some money into it. So
Correct. There you go.
yeah, I do that all the time with options, man. It's like I hit 300%. Take that,
Yeah.
leave it to the side. If it drops again, you could probably enter the same position or look for something farther out. Like that's how you rinse and repeat, right? Because money exchange hands in the option market, even in the stock market, all the time. You want to
Correct.
be the one with the most in your pocket at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So keep an
Yeah.
eye on that.
Another thing too is you don't want to overexpose yourself, right?
No, no,
Because
no.
again, if you have a risky position that has ballooned because it has made a huge run, the exposure of a significant drop gets bigger,
Yep,
and you may not have intended it to be that big.
yep,
So there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, let me reduce my risk by reducing my exposure, and then maybe either adding at another point or maybe reinvesting it into something else that's a little bit more stable. So we'll talk
yep.
about that more towards the end of this show, but just keep that in mind. You don't want to. Everything's not going to run forever. Let me put it to you that way.
Yeah, yeah. And that's a fact, man. It's like if unless you until you take the money out of your brokerage account,
You ain't
it's
made
not
no money.
you don't make no money. It's not yours, you
Yeah,
know.
you haven't made no money until you sell.
But I do want to talk more about this quantum computing and stuff. Like I feel like we talked a little bit about it. I think we probably need to build the same way we built like the ecosystem for you know the AI and all the stuff. Quantum computing kind of fit in that AI story also,
Hmm.
but it is a very very important thing to start looking at. You know what I mean? Now everybody's kind of like AI, 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 AI. I think those companies are probably already thinking. I mean, Jensen Huang talked about quantum computing. He doesn't talk about it a lot anymore, but I bet you he's already in somebody's company's pocket or whatever, building something for another company, right? So you just got to keep an eye on that because it's like I feel like there's the race on that end have already started. While we're wrapping up this AI thing, because remember, technology moves fast, man. AI is already in the weeds. Like we know it's here. There's a proven concept for it. Now,
Yeah,
quantum computing is going to be a part of that. Now, once they find the proven concept for it, then you got to move on to the next thing, right? And there is a bigger thing. I forgot what it's called, but there's something way bigger than quantum, like way bigger than quantum, which is crazy. I
yeah,
can't wait to tell you guys about it later. But it's like again, like those technologies moves in like leaps and bounds. Like so you gotta catch up to it so you can be in the position before everybody kind of knows about it. So
yeah.
again, keep an eye on
As
quantum, man.
as far as the quantum story goes, I don't, the one thing that I'm not exactly sure of is I don't think that they build these things in like data centers. I don't think that they run in data centers. But the two things that I'm very, very aware of that is needed in the quantum build out, I know they need chips. Chips are
Yep.
very, very important in the build out. Networking is also very, very, very important in the build out. And another thing that's very important is cooling
Cooling.
because those things run super hot.
Yep.
So cooling is needed in quantum, and I'm hoping that VRT is the preferred partner that comes in for a lot of these quantum companies when they start building out their infrastructure. But we'll start hearing more about them down the road once again, right now they're just running a lot of tests. They're running a lot of like, projects, seeing what it can do, what it can't do, the speeds and
Yep.
all that stuff.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But once it becomes something where there's a use case for it, that's going to be something that's going to be really amazing.
Yep.
IBM has man, they have a partnership or they're working with, I want to say it's Cleveland Clinic.
Hmm?
I'm not sure, but there's a healthcare
For the
company that
healthcare
they're
thing. Yep.
that they're
Yep.
working with in one of their quantum projects. And I think
Yep.
I've mentioned this before. There's a 60-minute video or documentary about quantum that I think everybody should watch because it talks about IBM and what they're working on.
Hmm.
And to me, the big players are going to be they're going to be the ones that are going to be able to invest more in these projects the small players, I don't know where they fit just yet, but we'll just have
Yeah,
to wait and see. But yeah, I think quantum is going to be here a lot faster than I think people think.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but
I mean,
if you're looking for quality in the quantum space, to me it's IBM, Google, and Microsoft.
yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like the internet started in the '90s, it didn't get crazy till like late '90s. But
That's true.
the conceptual idea of the real use case of internet started back in 1990s, maybe even a little bit before that, right?
Hmm.
You think about the mobile phones, whatever. The actual usage part probably started way before, but in 2007, 2008, when iPhone came, it kind of revolutionized the mobile world, right? Now it went from like something they use for a phone call to like people are now on it all the time. You know, it's just you do more than just texting. You can browse the web and all this stuff. Think about it. Before iPhone came out, you probably didn't even think about like going online and doing shopping from your phone or even like doing video calls and all this stuff,
Nah,
right? But
yeah,
that
just
idea have been thought about way before it came to fruition, right?
yeah.
So if you were to position yourself in a place where it's like, okay, this is happening, I need to be there. Same thing with AI. AI just became like a code word now. But if you think about it back in like, I say maybe 2014, 2015, there's actually a movie called, what is it called? I think it's called AI. Well, this little boy that's actually not a real boy, but it's like like this. I don't know. I gotta get the name for it, but it's like that. It started back in like 2015, 2014, maybe 2016. That's when the actual AI words start being thrown out there. Think about that movie with Will Smith with those with those
Oh, iRobot.
robot iRobot and all that stuff. They'll talk about AI a lot
Shoot,
in
think
that
of
movie.
Terminator.
Terminator. You know what I mean? So that idea has always been there, but you might not have the ability to conceptualize like how it's actually going to work. You know what I mean? It looks like this scary Hollywood thing that people make, but it's like in reality, it's a very small thing that you can use every day. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So quantum computing is coming up, and I'm pretty sure like probably since we already started hitting the code word now, I say 2028, we're probably gonna hear a lot more about quantum computing.
Yeah,
Like,
and
and the use case is gonna be a lot bigger.
I wonder if the ecosystem or the chips that are going to be built on those computers, is it going to be NVIDIA? Is it going
It's
to be
probably
AMD? Because
yeah,
here's the thing. AMD is what IBM is showing
yep.
their capabilities. Does this now help AMD become the leader in the quantum space down the road?
There you go.
We don't know yet.
There you go.
We don't
Yeah.
know yet
Yep.
because
Yep.
I'm sure anybody who's working on quantum, AMD now has their attention,
Yep.
right? Saying IBM was able to do X, Y, and Z with AMD chips. Maybe AMD becomes a preferred partner for building the quantum ecosystem.
But AMD will have to be smart as Nvidia though. Nvidia, Jensen is like in everything. He's like, we going after everything. If AMD wants to be the leader in quantum computing, they need to be in everything. Like they need to have a partnership with everybody who's going to build quantum computing. But to be honest, in my opinion, they're going to be a major player in it. But I think Jensen talked a little about it. You guys remember that he was talking about oh, it's going to be under 10 years. I'm telling you, that man was lying to y'all. I can tell you right now, he was lying to you because he already knows exactly what needs to be done, and he's probably already building on it. So
Yeah.
again, that's gonna be the next thing. So yes, let's be excited about the AI and talk about all this stuff. But I want you guys to start thinking about like in the next 2 years, what are those companies that need to invest in, and start thinking about that. That's what the research needs to be in. You don't want to be in the midst of the hype because the hype is not AI, but it's like not a lot of people talk about quantum computing. Yes, you hear it every now and then here and there, but
Yeah,
it's
especially
not
with
as
the high
big.
with the high flyer stock names that everybody been
Yes.
talking about. You hear it too,
Yeah. Every
but
now and then you hear it, but it's like, but I can get into like sometimes like even if you ask those people who trade like those high flying quantum computing, if you ask them what those companies do, they probably most of the time they probably have no idea. They
yeah,
just see a stock that's running, it's making
yeah,
money, let's jump in there. You know what I mean? But in reality, like this is gonna be a lot bigger story than we thought.
yeah.
So
Because like I said, personally, I don't know where they fit in the quantum ecosystem. I
yep.
haven't done any research on any of on IonQ, QBTS, Riget. I haven't done no research on them. The only ones that I am very familiar with are IBM, um, Google, and
Yep.
Microsoft. Those
Yep.
are the
Yep.
only ones that I'm familiar with. So we'll see how this all plays out. But
Yep.
all I gotta say is, I'm pretty sure that the quantum chips are probably going to be more expensive and more advanced.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And if AMD is going to be the preferred partner, or if NVIDIA is going to be the preferred partner, to me, all it circles back to is Taiwan Semi.
Taiwan Semi. They're gonna
Taiwan
make it.
Semi.
They have to
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah.
Somebody gotta make
Taiwan's,
him.
yes. So Taiwan, that just goes back to Taiwan Semi to as the
Yep.
ones that are going to be able to, build out those chips. So
Yep. 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 But yeah, man. So we'll keep an eye on that. But on this next segment, man, I want you to talk a little bit about diversification and the foundation for a long term portfolio. So I think that's something that a lot of people need to start thinking about. Right. I always think about, in order for you to have a really good portfolio, you need to have a really solid foundation of stocks or a specific stock, or even like a specific idea on how to diversify your portfolio. You know what I mean? So let's talk a little bit about that, and let's give some people some plays here.
yeah, so one of the things, so this is my tip for Financial Fridays, and one of the things that I want to make very, very important, especially in the early days of your investing life, is that you don't want to become a stock picker with your initial capital, right? When you're building now, if you're trading, that's completely different. But if you're trying to build a long-term investment portfolio, the foundation of your portfolio, number one, should not be speculative stocks. I don't care how well they're performing or what they're doing. You know, putting a company like Oklo or Rigetti or IonQ as the foundation of your, or Beyond Meat or Open Door as the foundation of your portfolio is not a good long-term strategy. Can it work in the short term? Can it work in time lapses? Yes. But is it a good strategy to hold long term? To me, the answer to that is no. So when you're building out your portfolio, in my opinion, this is my opinion, your initial capital, maybe your first 5,000 to maybe even $10,000 should be built on an ETF or like a mutual fund. Probably an ETF because you can't, most people use Robinhood. You can't access mutual funds in Robinhood, but an ETF. So something like QQQ or SPY or BOO should be the foundation of your portfolio. And let me give you an example. Let's say you are a musician, or right, you're trying to build a music concert. And let's just say that your opening act or your headliner, right, is a solo act. It's one person. If that one person gets hit by a bus, gets sick, or isn't able to show up, there goes the whole show.
That's it.
That's it. That show is done. But if you have your opening act as an orchestra, let's say the trumpet person doesn't show up, or maybe a clarinet player doesn't show up, or maybe a flute person doesn't show up, that show can still continue
Mm-hmm.
because you're not relying on just one person to deliver that performance. That is the main reason why diversification is important in building the foundation of your portfolio. Now, as that portfolio continues to grow and you continue to add money and that portfolio, gets bigger in size, then you can start adding individual positions on the outside of that portfolio. But the base of the portfolio is anchored to the S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100, or to an ETF that holds a diverse amount of stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is, again, you're going to have access and you're going to have, you know, um, the ability to not have to rely on one company to drive performance of that portfolio. And then when things go bad, again, you're diversifying your risk, you're diversifying your losses. Now, is it sexy? No, it's
Absolutely not.
not sexy. It's not sexy. IonQ or Rigetti or CoreWeave or Circle on a day-to-day basis, they're probably going to outperform QQQ or
Yep.
outperform SPY.
Yep.
But remember, you want to build something that's going to last long term. You're not building a portfolio to get out entirely in the next 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. So to me, if you're starting out investing and you're putting in a couple $100 until you get to like 5,000, I'd even say 10,000, most of your capital should be going into like an index fund or a ETF that is diverse, because that's your best risk management strategy. And as that portfolio grows, I would say this, that you probably still want to have, I'd say anywhere between 50 to 60% of your total portfolio still anchored to that index fund.
Mm.
Now, when you start getting a larger portfolio, right, you start getting into the 200, 300, $400,000 range, there's a strategy where they call it direct indexing, where rather than buying the entire index, you can start owning the individual positions in the index rather than an ETF or things like that, in the portfolio. That gets a little bit more complicated. Most of the time people do it for what they call tax loss harvesting, where again, if you want to offset some of your taxable gains, you're able to sell some of the losers. You can't necessarily do that in an ETF. So that's why, usually for like direct indexing, you need to have like a couple 100,000 before you can do that. But again, for a long-term risk management strategy, diversification should be the basis of your portfolio. And if it's not, you're playing a very, very risky game in the long run.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind. You don't want to have low quality, you know, high beta stocks as your basis. Now, can you get away with core positions in like Microsoft or core positions in like, Apple or Nvidia or Amazon? Yes, you can. But I will say, why not own all of them in an ETF
ETF. Yep.
rather than having to pick just one?
Yep.
So that's how I look at it from an investor standpoint. Is it sexy? No, but it'll get the job done in the long run. So
Yep.
that is my pitch.
And you limit your exposure too, like you said, like
Hmm.
on a day-to-day basis, you're not going to see too much fluctuation in your
Correct.
in your profit, and or even like if you're losing money, you're not going to see a lot of fluctuation, but it will be steady. If you look at the S&P 500 or even Nasdaq Nasdaq chart for the past maybe 5-10 years, you see some dips, but if you scroll out, you see a chart that's going up. You know what I mean? So imagine your portfolio being like that on a regular basis. It's up and down, but if you hold on for a long time, eventually that chart just kind of look kind of like what the stock market looks like, S&P and all that.
And one thing I'll also say too is when you're building a portfolio and you're starting out and you're new to investing, and let's just say your one position is, I don't know, call it Microsoft or Nvidia. Trust me, when you see that one position getting hammered, your mind is going to be like, man, I should get out. I
Mm-hmm.
should get out, because you're relying on just one stock to deliver all of the performance
Yep.
in your portfolio. But if you're diversified, those drops are not going to scare you as much. When you see those drops, when you have those drops from time to time, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know that you have a diverse amount of stocks that are going to either recover at some point and then push the performance higher, rather than you just waiting on one company. I mean, we all heard the saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
One
That's tip.
basket.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Yep.
I'm not against individual positions. I think they have a place at some point, but to me, it should not be where you start. That should not be your starting point. Your starting point should be an ETF or an index fund that you can use to build the foundation of your portfolio. Kind of like
Facts.
it's like building a house, right?
Yep.
Let that be the foundation, and then you start putting in the different pieces as that portfolio starts to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Well, with that being said, man, I mean, next week we have a lot of earnings, man. Like it's gonna be the make it or break it in the stock market.
I think next week is going to be is a big week. I mean, it's going to be a big week because you got the
Yep.
Fed meeting, and
Yep.
then you got Apple, you got Microsoft. I think I saw
Apple, Microsoft,
Amazon.
Amazon, Meta,
Oh wow, yeah.
Mastercard, Eli Lilly, United Health, Caterpillar, ServiceNow. there's a lot of energy stuff. So like Next Energy NE is reporting also. There's a lot that's coming up, man. So yeah, we're about to see some either crazy, like there's definitely gonna be a lot of I'll say there's definitely gonna be a lot of volatility in the market next week,
Yeah.
because those are big companies. So
Hmm.
that's gonna be
Yeah.
interesting, man.
Probably gonna be a lot of volatility and a lot of volume.
Yep. But yeah, man, we shall see. I mean, we can sit here and say what we think is gonna be, but like when they start reporting, we'll see how the response is. So
Yeah.
we shall see how the market do next week. I hope you guys are in position. I hope you guys are waiting for a good place to be able to jump in. Or if you're not in position already, make sure you still, make sure you got your cash ready in case something happens. But beyond that, man, is there anything else you want to give to the people before we go for the next week?
I will say this. This is the only thing that I am sort of waiting to see. I'm waiting to see if we get 50 basis points. I
Mm,
am that is some I know there's a very small possibility, but when you look at what's happening with the regional banks, I think the Fed needs to kind of take the reins off a little bit to let them, because what's
yeah.
happening under the surface is not, it's something that has caught the Fed's attention, in my
Yep.
opinion.
Yep. Yep.
And I think some of those banks, they need some relief. They need some relief. And I don't know if that's going to come in the form of a bigger rate cut, or maybe they're going to loosen some of the capital requirement restraints. I don't know.
Mhm.
But some of these regional banks, they need some help.
You need help, big time.
Yeah, some of them could, because if what's under the hood is not good, again, this is, you don't want to see systemic issues, because systemic issues affect everybody in the market, right?
Yep. Yep.
So you
Yep.
don't want to see
Yep.
that. So hopefully the Fed gets in front of it, but I I want to put it in as a maybe like a one, I'd probably say a 1 to 5% chance we get 50. Very small, but I'm not going to say that it's impossible. That's one thing I'll be watching. And I
Yep.
and I want to see if anybody asks the Jerome questions about the regional bank earnings and what he thinks about
What he
what's
thinks is
going on under
happening.
the hood.
Yeah.
I want to see if anybody asks that
Yep.
question. I
But
might have to fly to
they're not gonna
Washington. I might have
they're
to
not
fly
gonna
to Washington and ask him myself.
they're not gonna let him fail though. Like that's the thing. That's the thing that I know
No,
for
no, no,
sure.
no. Yeah,
They're not
yeah.
gonna
They're
let him
not.
fail.
Yeah, they're not gonna
Uh,
let those, because if you look what happened to Silicon Valley Bank and you look at what happened to First Republic, they got smacked because rates were, they were on the wrong side of the
on the
rate
wrong side
curve.
of the curve. Yep. Yep.
So, you know,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I don't think we can afford to see any more of those again.
No, we cannot, man. That's gonna be a crazy move in the market if we ever see a couple of those go down again.
Yeah, but
But
if we get 50, whew, I think the
uh,
market is gonna move.
the euphoria is gonna be crazy.
Yeah, the
That's all I
euphoria.
can
If we
say.
get 50, the euphoria is gonna be crazy.
Yep, yep. But hey, it's still in the books, though. I mean, we'll see. It's still in the books. But other than that, man, let's wrap it up for the weekend. You guys have a great Friday. Please, if you're going out, make sure you're safe. But other than that, we'll see you guys on Wednesday. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yep, and I think Wednesday is the Fed meeting.
Yep, it is the Fed meeting.
All
So we'll
right.
talk
Well,
to you after.
just see you guys